And so I think it's safe to say that this community is a better place because of the hard work that he has tried to really, the things that he has attempted to do over time, the people that he's brought together, the circles of leadership that he has fomented. And in a weird way, I mean, several years ago when Dale asked Waing to join the board of directors of the Center for Ethical Leadership, no one knew that she might one day be the executive director. Unless, Dale, you didn't know that at the time? No, of course not. That would just be too much. And so now, as we talk about cycles of leadership, cycles of life, we are transitioning from one leader at the Center for Ethical Leadership, and we head toward a new style of leadership, a different person, younger energy, more dynamic energy, very capable energy. Not that there's anything wrong with us old folks, right? I am among you, believe it or not. But that's part of the cycle of change, and it's good to bring in fresh voices, more diverse voices, and to really hear from all aspects of the community. So we're very proud of Waing, and I want to bring her up now, and she's going to guide us through the rest of our program, our new executive director at the Center for Ethical Leadership.
Well, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of some different languages. In Burmese, we say Minglaba. Does everybody say Minglaba? Minglaba. And in Botswana, the language there is Setswana, and we greet the women and the men differently, and we say Dumela Ma for women and Dumela Ra for men. So Dumela Ma and Dumela Ra. Awesome. So thank you for being here tonight. You can tell I'm very nervous. So thank you for being here tonight. It's a very special occasion, and it's special on many, many fronts. So as Kwesi mentioned, this is our 10th anniversary, and really recognizing amazing community members whose leadership is just unceasing in advancing healthy, just, and inclusive communities in this region. So I'm very excited to be here and to welcome you in celebrating the 3 recipients of our Bill Grace Legacy Leadership Legacy Award. Okay, a little bit about me. You can't tell I'm blushing. And so the way my nervousness comes out is I tend to giggle and laugh. So I'll probably have to let all that adrenaline out just through laughing first. So join me in laughing, please. It'll help a lot. So, ha, 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 ha. So in that, we have some really wonderful folks in the room tonight that I want to acknowledge and thank for their support for the center. And so Tita Bagashaw, who is one of our former legacy recipients, leadership legacy recipients. She actually led a laughing yoga session for us last year at this event, so it was wonderful. It helped with the digestion, I think. And we have 2 other former award recipients here as well, Linda Park and Judy Piggott. If you can raise your hands, we'd love to acknowledge you. So, and also Daryl Hilariki, is that right? So I haven't met Daryl, but I'm looking forward to meeting you for it. So thank you for being here tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge our board members and our staff. So if you are on the board of the center and on our staff, please stand up and be acknowledged. In particular, I wanted to highlight or give a shout out to Roger and Walter. Roger's been our board president for many, many years, and I'm very grateful for his leadership. And Walter has been on our finance committee, and I'm very grateful for his guidance as well for that. actually written 3-page speech. And just to show you how unprepared I am to be in this leadership position, I did not print it out. I have it on my teleprompt, which, if I put it up here, would cover my face. So I'm going to do my best to remember what I wrote and to sort of share that with you tonight. But in acknowledging these folks, I also wanted to acknowledge our community partners who are so important to the work that the center does. And there are people who are on our Justice System Advisory Committee and on our School System Advisory Committee and our Community Peacemaking Planning Committee. So all of those folks, will you please rise so we can also acknowledge you and thank you. And I'd also like to acknowledge a couple of elected officials who are in our midst. And what I love is that they really tell the story of how a lot of the principles that the center espouses can be carried in ripple effects to many different domains, including the elected official positions. So Stephen Blackford, who's an elected onto our school board for the Seattle School District, and Shasta Cano Martin, who's also one of our award recipients tonight, and she's elected onto the Tribal Council for the Lummi Nation. And I also want to thank all the sponsors and volunteers who made this night happen. So thank you, volunteers, and everyone making this night. So a little bit about the history, as Kwesi mentioned. About 10 years ago, the board decided to honor Bill Grace, who is our founder for the Center for Ethical Leadership. And he founded the center 24 years ago really to create a catalyst for a just society. So the award recipients that we choose and honor and celebrate tonight are really those catalysts. They are creating and helping to create that just society in our community. And in particular, they exemplify ethical leadership. And the way we define ethical leadership is that your core values are congruent with all that you do in your life and in your work, and it's in service of the common good. And in that ethical leadership, it's also about recognizing the importance of collective work. So a big part of the center's focus is on developing collective leadership. And to me, that's a very powerful ingredient that is in the presence of all the bodies of work that the center does. So that's a little bit of the history. I know we have some folks who've known the center and been with the center for 24 years, so since its beginning. Thank you for being here tonight. And we also have some new folks, some folks who are just connecting now to the center. So welcome and thank you for coming, and I hope you have a great night here. All right. So I wanted to share, I have this opportunity to also share a little bit about who I am. I was given the task to get you guys to know me a little bit, but as well to have you understand the bodies of work that the center holds and the kind of impact that we have in the community. So it's kind of a tall order, so hopefully I'll meet it. And to do that, I brought some visual symbolisms to help me prompt me. Orange or tangerine, and lacquerware from Burma. So that would be my little prompters, and I'll come and tell you a story about that. But I want to thank everyone who has helped me come to this point in my life. And one of those key people is Denise Klein, who's here in this room. She's my former boss and always my life mentor. And as well as Dale. So Dale also being a former boss and also a life mentor here. So what I find is that I think for me, I find everyone in this room is a teacher, and you're my teacher. And I'm grateful that I am able to learn daily about leadership and about life and about myself through you and through others in the work that the center does. So what brought me to the center was about 8 years ago. I was very interested in the work that the center was doing in Gracious Space. It really intrigued me because I was experiencing a lot of marginalization in my workplace and also in my own home. And I was experiencing sort of cultural norms that were really, didn't know how to respond well to difference. And what the center offered was this effective language in which I could counter those prevalent norms that was in my life. And I thought, wow, what would it be like to be in an environment where people were gracious and people were considerate of others and how they impacted others, and people were willing to be open and adaptable. I thought, what would that be like? So I took a workshop that Pat Hughes and Karma Reuter, again, mentors and teachers in my life, to do that and start to learn that language and start to learn kind of the tools that would help me counter the experience that I was having. And in that, it really made me think about how do you practice graciousness. So this is where this lacquerware from Burma comes in. So I'm originally from Burma. I was born in Burma, and when I was 5 years old, my family moved to Botswana, and I grew up in Botswana. And in 2013, I went back to Burma for the first time in 18 years, and I was given this gift by a lovely lady, very hospitable, and this was one of her family looms, hair looms. And it's very simple, but yet elegant, and it's lacquer. So one of the traditional arts of Burma is lacquerware. So there's layers and layers and layers here that creates this bowl. So for those of you who are familiar with the center's work, you know how much we use sacred objects as a way to tell a story in our life and to make sense of that story. And so I wanted to share that with you with this. So in my life, both in work and at home, I've experienced quite a bit of betrayal. And I'm sure many of you have also experienced betrayal. But they were very painful experiences, and I was very angry and very upset. And, but yet I really wanted to strive and hold the value of graciousness. I wanted to believe that I could be a gracious person. Not just do graciousness, but be gracious. And what I learned was that in order for me to be gracious, just like the layers that this lacquerware, there were so many layers that I had to go through and really come to terms with and be able to do. And so one of that was forgiveness. In order for me to feel graciousness again, I had to have the ability to forgive whoever I felt betrayed by. And in doing that, I realized, okay, in order for me to forgive, I have to understand what happened. I have to understand them. I have to understand that other person. And in order for me to understand, I had to deeply listen. I had to deeply listen to their story and understand what was happening for them. And as I was doing that, trying to seek to deeply listen, I realized I was gaining empathy. And so in that empathy is where I was finding the ability to forgive and to regain the sense of graciousness and to regain this way of being that I wanted to be. So in that, I learned this really important lesson of what it is to create graciousness or gracious space. That is these layers, so many layers, right, of deep listening, of understanding, of empathy, and of forgiveness. So all of these are elements of the work of the center. And this is one of the reasons why I'm very much drawn to the different bodies of work that the center has. In some ways, I often think about a Mobius strip. So okay, I'm going to have you guys do an exercise. Turn over to person next to you, grab the hands like this, and create a Mobius strip. Great. You guys follow instructions so well. So, in case you don't know what a Mobius strip is, you now can tell, right? Oftentimes, I can't tell where my way of being ends and that of the center begins. So, awesome. So I think that in terms of my values, the center's values, the work that the center does, the work that my life's calling has, the relationships that I hold, and the relationships that the center has, they all intertwine in this Mobius strip. And so I really don't know where I begin or where I end and where the center begins and where the center ends. And it's such an amazing opportunity to be able to have that experience. And so in terms of like the center's philosophy and concepts and the approaches that we use, I really appreciate how everyone who's part of that community strives to embody them. And in doing so, those layers have to be practiced. And they're not easy to practice, right? They're incredibly hard and difficult to practice. And so this connectedness that you just had with the Mobius strip is also about how we're connected with each other. And in order for us to be able to practice these layers, it's really helpful to have our relationships with each other. And these relationships is what support us and actually gives us strength in the hardest times. And so for me, that's when I think about, what can you learn from eating an orange? And so my father, when I was 10 years old, he was eating an orange. And I was desperately wanting a slice. So I said, "Dad, can you give me one?" And he was like, "Well, Wang, when you eat an orange, you must practice mindfulness." And he very, very slowly started to peel the fruit. And in my impatient young mind, I was like, I just want the slice of orange, right? But he was very, very, very meticulously slow and very much watching the peel. And he said, mindfulness helps you understand how everything in life is connected. Because as you peel this orange, you start to think about who picked this orange, who helped wash it, who helped bring it to the market and to the shop, who helped plant the seeds that grew this orange, who helped water the ground and fertilized the seed. So he started talking about essentially how life is extremely interconnected. So that was a very important lesson for me to learn at 10 years old about the mindfulness of eating an orange. But it's incredible when you think about it in terms of systems. And this is part of the work that the center does. The center really looks at systems change, right? And in doing that work, understanding how interconnected we all are and how important relationships are in that interconnection. So the work of the center, our mission is to cultivate leadership and to help build capacity for change. And we tap into the wisdom of the collective in doing that. And so one of the experiences I had recently was to truly understand how this mission plays out. Keiko and I, Keiko is one of our, she's our director of our Peacemaking Healing Initiative. Keiko and I led a peacemaking circle for youth ambassadors from Brazil recently. And their focus was on leadership in the community.